Aura is the right term. You can raise the aura of a person doing this like extremely well and extremely affordably comparative to any other method that you have.
There's incentivization to be a creator, which is what we all are. We create original ideas or thoughts and our own content. And then there's curator, which is also valued.
So, this is the brand fathers. Let's dive in. So Nike does have like 10 social media accounts, right? How does that, like, How does a structure like that run? Like, if you're an account, like, or like, when does the decision to make a new one roll out? Or, you know, and I'm curious, you're seeing some of these up and coming brands, like, should Malbon have 7? Like, in terms of like the way Nike did that strategy? Because it is interesting. You did see these big brands branch out, and it's just, again, like, it just seems different, but it's really not.
I was just thinking about this too. You know, I do think Malbon has, you know, like a Korea, they do a ton of business. Like the golf business in Korea is huge. Japan accounts. And I was just thinking though, like you're so right. All these brands are talking about diversity. They want to show that they serve all these people. You see this in athleisure a ton. You see this in beauty. But, you know, it's making my mind blow because you're now with the way that the algorithm works, like that might not actually be working very well because you need to get hyper targeted and hyper specific. And so it's a really great point. I do think, yeah, regional accounts. What happens though is you need to end up having people to run that account. You need a social media manager for that. You need to be creating content. And so that becomes a very big lift, which is where I think we're about to go with this WHOP conversation and where you start outsourcing to a bunch of other creators who can do this independently, contracted, and they're incentivized. And it's not the old structure of hiring someone under a salary and having to get all of that bloat to create all that content to support it.
The demographic thing is so funny because it's such a taboo topic almost. Like where it's like, hey, so I had this thing happen when I had like 50,000, 100,000 TikTok followers. Someone was ripping my content, graphic for graphic, word for word. A black dude had like 40,000 followers making the exact same videos. And I was looking at the comments and I'm looking at this and I was mad to start. Then I was like, hey, guess what? He's hitting a whole different, these are not my followers. It's just different. So a lot of people don't want to hear that message from an almost 40-year-old white dude. And if you really just break it down to human psychology, a lot of people want to hear that same message from someone that looks like them or appeals to them for a different reason. And if you, and again, we always, when we want to talk about, oh, we need to spread these. No, I think actually, literally, if I, as a creator, wanted my message to get farthest, I would actually have 4 or 5 people saying the same thing in ways that other people feel comfortable delivering it. And I think marketers need to understand and think like that and be kind of ready for that rough conversation. I think is a really interesting way to think about content in this era. And I'm curious what y'all thoughts are.
I just saw a woman last night do an AI video, which was crazy. I'm sure y'all have seen this, where it shows they shows like a face of, say, some exotic model speaking in you know, a tropical location, and then it switches to someone like a Zoom cam with bad camera like mine right now. And it's these AI video tools. And I was just thinking, Oren, like you could actually record the video that you've done and then actually put yourself in a different demographic through AI video and have like 3 to 5 accounts. By the way, my impersonator on TikTok has double my following. I'm gaining on them, but they're just ripping my content and just posting it. They don't get quite as good of engagement, but their following is bigger. Anyway, that's a fascinating place for AI, you know, to be doing that, and that's a fascinating perspective as well.
Ashwin, curious your thoughts, and we'll hit into WAP.
Yeah, I think that idea is right. That like if you're looking just for like the mass reach of a certain message, you're going to have it tailored from who it's coming from, what they look like, what they sound like, and it's going to hit totally different audiences. I even know, like, you know, I think Jordan, you and I less so in terms of like content overlap, but a lot of like the topics and areas that Warren and I talk about are very similar, but like even between him and I, like we have pretty different audiences where a lot of those people, like they don't know about one or the other. They're like, oh, I only follow you. I've never seen this guy. And I'm sure kind of like vice versa. I think that's right. I think, yeah, there is this element of like, you know, to Jordan's point, like what would it look like if we just ran ourselves through 4 or 5 different AI accounts and avatars in different countries?
All right, so
speechless. The brand fathers are speechless somehow just thinking about this, which is a rare.
The repercussions of this are really important. Like I talk about this a lot with students, where I'm like, hey, people want to hear. We used to want to hear from gurus, right? We used to go, I want to read about Seth Godin or the former CMO of Nike, or I'm going to read Phil Knight's bio or whatever this is. You read about these big prolific people and you learn from them and their path. Now I feel people like want to learn from people who are both ahead of them, but also kind of sideways. Oh, what's this person over here is also a junior art director doing? And so you kind of get this mix. But if you really want a message to go, you kind of have to go this whole cornucopia because of the way that social media slots you in. I think is particularly interesting. But This brings us to WHOP. And if you haven't heard of WHOP, okay, kind of give a brief intro here. Actually, before we even get to them, let's get to this idea of clipping. Clipping is basically when people do stuff online, live streamers, YouTubers, whatever. People will take a smaller subsection of their video and post it on social media for views. And the monetization of the algorithms, where TikTok pays you for views, where Twitter pays you for views in particular, has really boosted this economy, where younger people or people in foreign countries have said, hey, if I just clip people's content, I'm going to get paid by the algorithms for it. And so you'll see, like, for instance, Twitch streamers. Kai Cenat does something. All these people are going to clip what happens, the best moments. They'll take the best 40 seconds, put it on Twitter, put it on TikTok, and try to grow their accounts. But what happens is this huge ripple effect where people gain a lot of fame from this, or all your messages get multiplied completely. And there's an incentivization that comes from doing that helps get you paid. For better or for worse, one of the first people to really do this really well was Andrew Tate, which is kind of, tainted the name of doing this a bit. But now this is like thoroughly crossing over, where it's moving from something that Twitch streamers are doing, et cetera, into like a part of the culture. And I think what we want to talk about here today is like how brands are kind of thinking about that. So before we go forward, I'm curious, like, what is y'all experience with clipping so far? Like, what was your kind of thoughts or knowledge as we go into this conversation?
Let's just explain for some people who are not chronically online, perhaps, about like Andrew Tate and the philosophy. So similar to some of the other subject matter we were talking about earlier that might get flagged. So Andrew Tate, for very good reasons, gets flagged by people and accounts. He's, kind of the poster child for misogynistic content and whatnot, regardless of what you think about him. He has been flagged. And so what he does is all his following people take all his stuff from his podcast, his video, his Patreon, and then they start promoting it all on social media. So in a weird way, this guy has like some of the most massive influence on social media without posting himself and owning that account. And he's incentivized that in a number of ways, which is what we're going to get into. But Ashwin, what is your thoughts on all this?
If I remember correctly, he was like the first to do it, and he did it on TikTok in 2020. Probably.
Good point.
Doing like 1 billion impressions a month. He was like he was the number one search term on Google because everyone's like, who is he? Because that's how much of the conversation he was dominating on TikTok. Like every second video was someone reclipping his content. And his whole model there is he had people, he was funneling people into a course, Hustlers University. And so all of these separate accounts were like, had an affiliate link to Hustlers University. So they're like, hey, if I pull people into the Tate ecosystem, they hit the link in my bio, they sign up for a course for $1,000, I'm going to get a 20% cut of that. So kind of like the math and the economics of like that strategy made sense for a lot of people. So that's where I kind of first came into the whole clipping world. I'm not in the world of like seeing like Twitch streams like reclipped and cut. Like I see some things here and there on TikTok and Instagram, but it's not really my algo. So this is also like relatively new to me as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to, just for people to understand what that looks like on Twitter, for instance. So I just searched iShow Speed on here. We talk about Speed. Speed is in Hong Kong. I think this is some of the conversation we may have a little bit today, where he's a live streamer. He's streaming almost all the time in China. And you go, like, Destroy Nectar is a clipping account. All they do is clip, like, and cut things down. And you'll see in the search results, this person is literally just cutting things from their Twitch stream, and they're all over. And so are all these other people as well, where they're just cutting the hottest moments and getting big engagement, 104,000 views, etc., of all the things happening with Speed. So much so that Speed's account doesn't do any of this. Like only this is happening with them. And it's gonna be the same thing if you search Kai Cenat, where basically there's a cottage economy of people cutting things from inside these accounts. Again, another account with 930,000 views. This account has 1,556 followers. They're just trying to get Twitter monetization money, and they're just cutting these segments out. So that's what we mean by clipping, and it's happening on all these networks. And these people are doing it because there's like a financial incentive, or they're big fans. But where this comes into this next stage, good.
Can I just say also, this is the strategy that all large sports accounts run for their social media. They basically just pull everybody else's content and then monetize it and sell advertisements towards it. So, in the social media era, there's incentivization to be a creator, which is what we all are. We create original ideas or thoughts and our own content. And then there's curator, which is also valued in social. So it's people who, say have taste or filter, and people follow for that. And you can often build a large audience, which you can then sell advertisements towards, but it doesn't have the long-standing, personal brand that would be associated with it.
Completely. And And so really there's like a make money element underneath this that kind of powers this economy that we're going to get to in a sec. But like there's also the algorithm side where if you watch one thing, for instance, if you watch my YouTube channel and I post a YouTube on a podcast, YouTube is very good at showing people that are subscribers to my channel another thing that I'm on, right? And they're good at showing this Brandfathers content to my YouTube people with my name in it, right? And that's the same thing with anything that happens on TikTok. You watch one of those Tate videos, it knows to show you a million more. And then all these accounts kind of play into that. And so it's just that's a thing worth noting because the same thing happens for brands, but they don't take advantage of it because they're in this singular thing. And if you have a really good seeding ecosystem and influencers, you can begin to kind of build that world. Tarte does an amazing job of this, Tarte Cosmetics. And to give some context on that, like Tarte will invite influencers on a trip. Kosas does this as well. There's like other brands that do these trips. They will have all these influencers going. People will talk about the name of the trip, like Tarte Island. A bunch of green screen creators will start being like, this is offensive and unsustainable and they're spending all this money. A bunch of the influencers' fans will be like, what's going to happen next on Tarte Island? And then you'll start to see a Tarte Island algorithm form where if you watch one video, you see 40 others. And this is like the ideal brand scenario.
This is also where I criticize AI a little bit. AI, people are always like, AI is so amazing. And I'm like, the algorithm doesn't know that I'm hate watching something. And then it will only force feed that down my throat for the next 3 days. Because I was looking at something as a spectacle, almost like ambulance watching or whatever. You're like,
until
oh my
you
gosh,
grow to love it.
Yes, yeah, like our song of the week
Our
is
Jordan Alvarez guy.
Yes, exactly.
Before we get into this comment too, how familiar are you guys with Eamon Ghazi?
Enough.
Jordan?
Not at all. I don't think.
Man,
let me look it up.
I love the variance of our online experiences. Actually, is part of what makes this magic. So Eamon Ghazi, noted guru course seller of the highest degree. He's like very tame version of Andrew Tate without the misogyny and without all the other stuff. He's just one of those guys who's like, what does this guy do? How did he make all his money? And it's through selling courses to kids, but he's like on the private jet. And he's very well put together. But he's like the poster child of like the course seller economy. But young, like early 20s.
Let's see. Related searches: Alex Hormozy, Andrew Tate,
Exactly.
Layla Hormozy. Makes sense.
And so he's very much like kind of like presenting himself as this like almost old money version of this, like how you can break yourself free to financial freedom, and has done this very, very well. But he announced, and I think you can actually go the second post in the middle there. Yep. That he is becoming a co-owner of a software called WHOP, which is part of what we wanted to talk about here today. That is like a thing that is happening currently. And so to give a brief breakdown of WHOP, this is a software that's kind of like school or Kajabi or an educational software, but like the modern version. So right now, if you were to buy a course, you'll get like a school community where people can go and talk to each other and you get coursework and value. WHOP sort of shifted that and said, hey, you join WHOP and there's 100 or thousands of WHOPs inside, like they call an individual program a WHOP. And there's some of them are courses like that, and some of them are ways for you to make money. So basically, you can go in and join a WHOP and have the ability to participate in like some kind of hustle, for lack of a better term. And the most popular hustle, and the one that has kind of revolutionized their platform, and the one we're going to talk about here today, is clipping, where basically they've said, hey, you can join a WHOP and clip for Drewski. Basically, you can go take Drewski's content within these parameters, post once a day, put the links here so that they're tracked, and you will get bounties. You will get money for clipping. And why this is important is you'll see like, I don't know if we can see it on the screen like that we have here, but there's like thousands and thousands of people inside this WHOP who are in there. And they paid out $5,000 on this bounty thing already. There's 29,000 people who are saying, I'm participating in the Drewski clipping economy. And then for smaller people on there, like Brez and some of these other like gurus on there, they have like 5,000, 6,000. And again, not all those people are actually doing the clipping. People will join and do whatever, but it will teach you how to do it, show you your requirements, and then they go make 50 accounts and post it on there, and they only get paid when it gets views. And kids do this because they understand the internet, because it's an easy way to make money online. And you can actually, if you have a video go viral, like, cool, maybe I've actually made $400 yesterday, which is like life-changing money versus when I worked at fucking Chick-fil-A. And so this is, I want to talk about this because Drewski's obviously a huge name. Eamon Ghazi's a huge name. This is happening right now. And if marketers want to act on it, like you can be ahead of this. Before I rant more, curious on y'all thoughts.
So here's where so the course seller model makes a lot of sense to me, because if you are selling a course at $1,000 a month or whatever, $10,000 a year, you're going to be creating all of this content, especially lifestyle content, right? That is like inherently viral and clippable. Like Iman Gadzhi goes from getting off his G6 to a G-Wagon. He's in Dubai, then he's in Switzerland. And it's like, great, there's like 18 clippable moments in this day in the life video of his. I'm going to reclip that stuff. I'm going to drop a link in my bio because people want to aspire to live that lifestyle. And I'm making money in multiple ways off of this. I'm making money off the affiliate and I'm making money off of like the clipping incentive. So the course kind of economy of both the content that the course creators are making as well as the clipping incentive makes a lot of sense to me there. My question is, how do you think about this? How do you think about those like incentives from a brand standpoint?
And so what's interesting to me is I had a aha moment when I was at a brand dinner with Air, who we've done this post with. And they had a bunch of brands there, including like fucking like Apple and shit. Like it was like very high level, like brands that are using their creative organization tool. And so the important thing about that tool, where the moment was for me, was they have like an AI thing inside. It's like they're like a Dropbox, better Dropbox for creatives, if you aren't familiar with Air. But you search inside of it. I can go search Oren, or I can tag my face, and it will bring me all the clips with Oren. Or I can go, hey, 23. And it will find me all the jerseys that have 23. And one of the people at that dinner was it was like a college, I forget who it was, but it was like a big SEC school.
Yeah,
Georgia, and they were like, yeah, guess
Tennessee.
what? I can go search for highlights of this kid from 1980 in our reams of footage, and I can immediately pull it all up. And that was an aha moment for me when I was like, oh shit, this actually enables them to have a creative workflow that's really easy. Fast forward to where this is with WHOP is if you have any massive library of footage, which every brand does. I deal with this, like I was just at a brand the other week who has shot behind the scenes on all of their shoots for the past like 6 years, but have put out like one behind the scenes video. And they saw my behind the scenes reel that went kind of viral. And they were like, how do we work with this better? And it's just like, oh, you just need a plan. You just need someone to act on it. But their social team is going left and right. And that was already 2 months ago. We're never going to act on it. Put that in the hands of the clipping economy. Be like, here is all of our stuff. Here's some basic guidelines that you shouldn't, and that's where this is going to really get weird, is like the brand guidelines, but like, here's all this, make whatever you want. And so if you have that library, if you're Red Bull, you are GoPro, you are someone with reams of footage about cosmetic tutorials, about whatever, why wouldn't you say, cool, I'm not going to put my team on this, but I will pay you $100 per fucking 10,000 views or whatever that is.
Yep.
And you can track it in the system. I don't even have to set it up. I can just do this through WHOP. They already have a program for this. And I think that is an absolute fucking game changer to get brands with lots of content way more top of funnel brand awareness.
That's interesting. Have you seen any brands on WHOP?
No, I have. This is why I think we want to have the convo. I was like, I'm in there. I'm trying to get my stuff on WHOP because I have a big YouTube catalog I haven't clipped. I saw Drewski and I was like, oh, this is now legit. And it's like whether they end up, WHOP maybe to make money online, but some brands are going to break the seal. And I'd rather we be the combo that sparks some of those brands doing that.
Sure.
And if they don't end up using it on WHOP, they're going to run clipping through somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this as somebody from a sports angle, like the NBA. Or Major League Baseball. There's all this talk about how they're struggling. You know, the NFL continues to rise. They are not as relevant. They're not connecting with the young audience as much. Their social team alone can't run all this. Their teams can't run all this. So like you could open up the archive of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, whatever. And this already exists unsanctioned, and I'm sure they're flagging it left and right. Why not be the beneficiary of it? And you could get people top of mind. We also talked about this for athletes. I was on a call this morning, with like a college athlete, right? He can get a ton of money for being incentivized, like to be pay for play, but we're trying to get more marketing deals for these athletes. Well, they only have a few thousand followers on Instagram. They don't do enough. If you could build that aura that, some of these other legends are building around social, brands start to pay attention and be like, oh, I want to be a part of this. So there's some real unlocks here that you're highlighting.
And when brands and athletes can pay higher dollar than the course sellers, right? Because these bounties you see on here, like $5,000. Okay, cool. Hey, it's 350 per million views. This is the entry level. Brand can come in and be like, cool, it's actually harder for us to go viral. We could pay way more. But some of these kids actually know the solution to that and can see where the arbitrage is. But athletes is like the perfect version because there's so much dollars from, even like say Nike wants to take advantage of a sponsorship they have. They want to get this person more awareness. Or Adidas just announced they're doing what's his name? Daniels on the Minnesota. He's getting a signature shoe. It's like, cool, we need to raise exposure of him overall. This money is like nothing to them to raise that up. And then the virality of it means it's actually could generate some views. But I look at this as if you want to generate awareness for a influencer contract for someone that's like lighter, Or again, we talked about this example offline, but Julius Randle wants to say, "Hey, I am up for a contract extension next year." No one's talking about how good Julius Randle is, or he's having a bad year. Great, get these kids to go clip, Julius Randle top 8 posters from the last, like the last 3 years, and just run that to death. You can, I think, again, aura is the right term. You can raise the aura of a person doing this like extremely well and extremely affordably comparative to any other method that you have.
Just think about the incentives though you could run too, or in like financial, of course, but also like meet and greet. Would you come to my house if you reach whatever 1 million views? We'll tier this. You can come jump on my private jet. I'll give you courtside seats. You can get access to X, Y, or Z. Like, it's incredible. I'm at a golf tournament this week, and there could be all kinds of access that they could get.
Yeah, and so it basically just democratizes the ability to create content from a set of like existing things that are happening, and then incentivizes it. And so I think this is important for us to discuss, because every marketer should be kind of thinking about what that new economy looks like. Because the last kind of portion of our arc of this is like all these TikTok accounts, democratizing the community-based clipping of these things. The last is like YouTube is overtaking, we had a chart floating around somewhere, but like YouTube is overtaking all this traditional television again. Like, it's becoming the core screen of choice, which is the other thing I feel like marketers need to really, really adapt to. And Jordan, I guess my question to you is, I'm curious what brands you think are doing a good job on YouTube, or where that conversation is for you.
Right. Well, bro, I'm here in the middle of a really interesting experience. We have assembled through an agency, Big Bird, that I consult with through my marketing. It's basically like nearly exclusively my marketing consulting over the last several months has been in the golf world with Big Bird agency. And the thing I like about them is they have a larger agency that exists over it for like production and social and brand creative. Anyway, and so we just pulled off this event at the Live Golf Tournament in Miami, where we connected the top pros over here with the top YouTube creators. So we got like the Avengers of YouTube golf, plus then the biggest ones like Bob Does Sports and these others commentating the event, and then a big comedian like Andrew Santino, who I wasn't familiar with before, but I am now, and the dude's like hilarious. And so it's gonna debut on Grant Horvat's channel on Saturday night at 8 Eastern. And I think that's like, I wanna give a lot of credit to Liv for understanding where the audience is. Like, Grant has over 1 million subscribers. He's the hottest thing in YouTube golf right now. They then gave unfettered, I have never seen in all of my work with creators and organizations, these creators got unfettered access to this entire course, to these pros. And I gotta tip my hat to the pros too. They were totally down to be engaging with these athletes. I may not be answering your question directly, but to me, like, this example right now was fascinating. And the last thing that we just did is a creator meet and greet. And I'm telling you that there was a line for all these creators, and some pros are walking by and they're not even getting noticed because all these kids and even grown people are waiting to meet and greet and get autographs from the YouTube creators. So it's fascinating. I think you got to look at the individuals who are doing YouTube well, and then figure out how you partner and enable them to get your brand in front of them, so that you're not having to own all of that YouTube content yourself.
I think this is I'm bringing this chart up because this is important for every marketer to understand, every retail chain to understand, every creator to understand, is that you look at all these platforms, like where this is going. Like, okay, Disney versus NBC versus Fox versus YouTube, right? Like who's really providing your entertainment? Like, this isn't going to be that. Like, YouTube's competing here right now for the top spot compared to these other major networks. But where this is going with YouTube taking over your TV is that's not going to be like 11%. Like, it's not going to be like they're on top and competing. It's going to be fucking half. Like, that's where this is headed, right? Is that like the democratization and improvement of that content, and then the easy access and the algorithm based on that these other places just simply don't have, is going to just keep increasing. And whether that takes 4 years or 20 years, like, that is happening. What brands can do with YouTube and with creators, and with the cost versus a traditional ad spend on television, and with the size of where that's going, is something we all need to pay like extreme attention to.
Extreme attention, please, for the love of God.
And to the point of it, I think I want to tie in here into retail a second and talk for a moment about our partner. But like, the biggest thing about this is like, if you are a brand that is selling in stores, you are constantly having this conversation of how to justify your shelf space. I think we talked about this with Saratoga Water the other day, of like, their best move when they go viral is to go talk to all the retailers and be like, look how much attention we're getting. And I think as you begin to plot out with your partners over these next few years what this looks like, showing them how ahead of the strategies you are and what you're thinking about that others aren't, and the numbers that come from it is like your best way to retain space against all of these smaller, more savvy brands that are coming for you.
Yeah, and the awareness that is created through creators and building brand awareness is no longer those direct channels. You don't have to get the awareness through those direct channels, so that when they walk in the store, they are looking for your product and looking and have name recognition and are asking for it. I see this with Liquid Death and others, top of mind constantly. So when I'm there, I'm actually recognizing the cans and I'm looking for what they're doing interestingly on a shelf space. And we know, Ashwin, you're constantly looking for interesting shelf space.
Yes, I am. And I think, like, again, this point about retail, we talk about it a lot. We talk about especially emerging brands getting on retail, like how it's not terribly, that's not the hardest part of the equation. The hardest part is like, how do you get merchandise properly? How do you have the right sales team supporting sell through there? How do you have all the POS to support sell through, to increase velocities, to constantly like work with the stores that you're in to get better shelf placement and kind of like different categories. So that's where brokers can come in, especially a broker like Platform, right? Where they not only get you that retail placement, but they help kind of accelerate your sales and velocity within these stores and kind of support you at every single touch point there. One of the things that I think is important, I was talking to them this week and they were asking me if I had a relationship with this one company. That one company probably does like $500 million a year. They already have a great retail footprint. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to make the introduction. Like, what's the context there? And he was like, a big part of our business is obviously getting brands into the retail for the first time, but we actually take on a lot of existing brands in retail that are doing $200 to $700 million a year in retail. And we'll just like double that in retail. We'll increase their velocities through our just kind of like leveraging power and strategies and tactics that obviously like big kind of like CPG insights can bring. Yeah, I know Oren's got Mountain Valley over there, but they rep Mountain Valley and they were like, they were doing $500 million a year and now we're repping them and we're trying to double that in retail for them. Working with people like these are great. And it's like very much a comprehensive strategy and approach that you have to have when getting into retail. And again, we're going to do a dedicated episode on retail, what success looks like there, how your brand should be set up for it. So if you have any questions about that, DM us, drop it in the comments, and we will be sure to cover it.
What are some topic requests you guys are getting from your audiences?
Not a lot of topic requests. A lot of people being like, "This is great, keep going."
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of that. People are telling me we're helping them get jobs. They're helping them land portfolios, like all kinds of stuff, which is great. I get people who are like, "Hey, will you guys talk about trademark battles or this campaign that came out or this person? They're doing a 5K at Coachella now. What does this mean?" And stuff like that. So if y'all have those topics, send them to us and we can see if we can fit them in.
Yeah, but I think maybe towards the end of this, let's dip into some of the things that are actually happening here for the week. So I know we had a couple that were on the list. I think the first one was the Glossier Passport. So basically, Glossier has a bunch of retail stores. They have created this passport where you can basically get different stamps and rewards for going to all their different stores and put it in this kind of cute little package. And so now it's available for all stores in the US and the UK. You can get instant prints portrait, for like a little personal touch that goes inside there. And it's a little brand awareness move. And I thought this was interesting to talk about just from how do you incentivize people to go to retail stores or to go to more of your stores? And then also have like a cute factor. They did a great job.
So good. Like it's shareable. It's on brand. It's viewable.
And I'll note that the post has 32,000 likes on Instagram, which for them is great.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's interesting. I don't know. So there are these elements of it where it's almost like when I look at that, it's like it has all the right elements, right? You get something, it kind of like gamifies the experience. It's something cute and it's shareable and it's like Instagram worthy and all this stuff. And so I understand that. It's almost like you work backward from like a marketer's funnel and like it hits all of the points. But from a user standpoint, again, like I'm not the audience, I'm not the demo, but it's like I'm never doing that.
And this is interesting where I am always shocked by the impact of loyalty programs in beauty. Like people are obsessed with the like Ulta Sephora points and things like that. So I do think this is if you tried to pull this off and you were like Marine Layer, probably no one cares, right?
Yeah. Are they giving you free stuff outside of this? If you go to the stores, like earn this product at this store, or is it just like stickers and photos? I don't know. I have to look into it more.
Yeah, so I think, as far as I know, it's is just like you get the different stickers to the different places because they have different stickers at each one, and now it's like a place to put it. So it's definitely more fun than useful. But they also have like a pretty notorious loyalty program. They have like a membership thing and like all this other stuff. And their membership is also one of those where you can only get this one keychain because of the membership and like all that kind of shit.
The Glossier fangirl experience is real. When I worked at Nike Women's, all of my coworkers, they loved Glossier, and we were even talking with them about, trying to collab. Yeah,
but I agree. I think out of the cosmetic space, I don't know how much this works. What would y'all think? How would you make this work in some ulterior industries that may be less? Are there any places that you would think, hey, how do we? This has all the beats, but like, what's that thing that translates into something Ashwin uses when he goes to Piggly Wiggly?
Yeah, I mean, I think an interesting one is I have a friend who is the head of growth at a retail chain called Camp. They make kids products. I think they have 4 stores in New York City. And
bro, we have one in Dallas.
You have one
incredible.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So something that they started doing, obviously, 2020 was like a huge down year for them. And then they're like, is our retail business ever going to come back to life? So they launched this thing, I want to say maybe in 2021, where they started doing shows on the weekend. Like they would do a Frozen show or an Aladdin show. And it would be a 45-minute interactive show throughout the store. And you buy tickets for that, and the tickets are like $30 a pop. So it's like, great, mom and dad and a kid. And so you have like $90 or like $120 of a family walking in to go see one of these shows. And who knows what the relationship is on the other side, if there are dollars coming in from Bluey or Disney or whatever. You pay for the show, but then people are also buying product once they're in there because their kids love the show, and then they're like, oh, I just did the Bluey experience. Oh, there's Bluey at the front. I want to buy this too. And so this was super successful for them. They expanded it to all of their stores. It now makes up some ungodly amount of revenue for them. And this was a game changer for their business. And so I think that's a really interesting way of taking hey, you have this retail concept where you're basically a modern day toy store, right? You're better than a Toys R Us, but you need some other pull to bring people into the store. And I think a lot of brands should be thinking about that framework. So I remember I was down in, Oren, you and I have done some work with July. I was down in July's pop-up in Soho, where they're spending tens of thousands of dollars a month to showcase their suitcases. And we were kind of talking about the foot traffic and some of the challenges with it. Obviously, weekends were super great, but weekdays, there was not a ton of foot traffic. So how could they had a huge space. How could they think about their space and offer something interesting there? And so we're just kind of spitballing ideas as we were there. And I was like, oh, as you're a tourist and you're kind of walking around Soho, if you're checking out of your hotel, you have to check out by 11, but maybe you can't leave your suitcases there. So great, maybe we leave them here, and maybe you have some suitcase cleaning service or suitcase repair. Just do these really simple kind of add-on things, something that gives people a utility to come into the store that maybe you charge a nominal dollar amount on, but it's an adjacent service relative to the product set that you have. And I think more brands should be thinking about retail space like that.
Brother,
people want things to go to that are an event so much more than to just go to a thing. I'm looking at this, even for Vegas next week, I'm just looking for 2-hour things to do with kids for fucking as many of them as I can, or even things for the weekend. And so even just having that one little piece of it of all right, I thought the camp thing was perfect, but again, you have whether you have a salon, you have anything, it's what is that 1 or 2 hour thing that we can do that people gain some value from? Huge way to just reframe how you market.
Yep.
I could be using that service right now, as I had to come to the event, but I have to fly out in 2 hours. I would love that idea, Ashwin.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
And on that note, I am going to have to bounce. I do have to go catch a flight. My brothers.
Fair enough. I think we've covered an awful lot inside this one too, so we can say a lot to Jordan. We can kind of note a few things. So obviously, Platform is our sponsor. Their description is in the bio. You can check out WHOP. We were talking about at WHOP.io. We covered a lot of different things in here. So please, if you have a bunch of questions, drop them on here. We will try and hit some Q&A on that if you've done that in YouTube or in Spotify. Any other parting thoughts, gentlemen?
That's it. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, gents.